Hello, everybody. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. Now would be a great time if you want to pull out a pencil and a piece of paper to take some notes along the way. Right now, we are watching for gray whales through our spotting scope. All right, we're gonna wait about 2 minutes for anyone else to join today. Hello, everybody. I see a few more people are joining us right now. Right now is a great time to pull out a piece of paper and a pencil if you would like to take some notes or make some sketches today. And we'll get started in just a minute. Right now, we are watching for gray whales here in Mendocino.
All right, Kenzie, we're all good to start, and it's really exciting to see two gray whales live on this sportscast.
Oh, yeah. All right, welcome everybody. I am so glad you all made it out here to Mendocino today. If you would like to go ahead and test out that Q&A at the bottom of your screen, I would like to know how you're all doing today. So how are you doing today? Go ahead and type that in the Q&A. It is a beautiful day here in Mendocino. I am so excited you could join us today, and we are starting to see some gray whales today. There's one right there. I hope you all were able to see that. So when we look for gray whales, we're just looking for a little cloud of water coming up into the air. That is the whale spout. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot today throughout our program. Okay, now if anyone has any questions throughout the program, go ahead and type them into that Q&A. We have a couple of helpers here who will be answering some questions. And at the end of the program, probably around 10:30 or so, we will be talking through some of those questions that you asked today. All right, welcome everybody to Mendocino Headlands State Park. My name is Kenzie, and I am a marine protected area interpreter with California State Parks. Today, I have a couple of helpers here that I would like to introduce. They are looking through our spotting scope right now. We have Kason here, who is also an interpreter with California State Parks, and our friend Sid from Mendocino Area Parks Association, who helps us do all of our fundraising to support programs just like this. So we are super excited to have them here today, and we are so excited about this beautiful day today. Today we have perfect conditions for whale watching. So, like I said, I am a marine protected area interpreter here with California State Parks. And that means that it's my job to study the marine protected areas just off our coast. And I get to share all of the fun things that I learned with people just like you. So, here in Mendocino, we have quite a few MPAs actually. And a marine protected area is a special place in the ocean that has certain rules and regulations that we all can follow to help protect the place. So it's an area of the ocean that we protect, kind of like parks on land are protected. And they have a lot of animals that live there and a lot of plants. Here in the ocean, in our MPAs, we have some gray whales that sometimes come through. And these areas tend to have a lot more animals because we are protecting them. But there's still a lot of things you can do in MPAs. A lot of the time you can go surfing. Sometimes you can do some fishing. You can go diving. You can go on boats. But every MPA is different. So I am here at Mendocino Headlands State Park in Northern California. I am located about halfway between San Francisco and Oregon along the coast, right up here. I am about 3 hours north of San Francisco, about 4 hours away from Sacramento, about 9 hours from Los Angeles, and about 11 hours from San Diego. And I'm wondering, where are you visiting from? Go ahead and type that in the chat. Where are you visiting from? If you are visiting from California, this is the time of year when gray whales are migrating all along our coast. So while Mendocino Headlands State Park is a great place to see whales, you can see them closer to you. And this is what gray whales look like. And right now they are migrating. So every year, gray whales migrate from the cold waters in the Arctic in Alaska, all the way down to the warm waters of Baja California in Mexico. And back. They go all the way from the Arctic down to Mexico and back again. That's about 10,000 miles round trip. So migrating is when an animal moves from one place to another. Usually they are doing this for food or to reproduce. And that's exactly what our gray whales are doing. Gray whales feed in the Arctic, up in Alaska, and they give birth down in the safe, protected lagoons of Baja in Mexico, where they are protected from predators like orcas. So it's really important that they can make this journey back and forth every year. Now, we have a lot in common with gray whales. They seem really different from us at first. They're really big, they live in the ocean, they swim 10,000 miles a year, but we have a lot in common with gray whales. What do you think we have in common with gray whales? What do you think? Let's think about that for a minute. How are we similar to gray whales? That's a hard question. It's easy to see how we're different from gray whales, but we have a lot in common. Okay. So, like us, gray whales are mammals. All mammals have five things in common. So, right off the bat, there are five things that we have in common with gray whales. Although gray whales live in the ocean, so the way that they express their mammalian traits is a little bit differently than we do here on land. But gray whales actually evolved from mammals that lived on land and walked on land just like you and I do today. But they had to take their mammalian traits and kind of change them a little bit. They had to adapt to life in the ocean. So today, we are going to be learning the 5 traits that make a mammal. And we're also going to be learning how whales changed or adapted so that they can live life in the ocean. So today we are going to be using the acronym WHALE. So if you want to write this down on your piece of paper, there are 5 characteristics that all mammals have. So we have WHALE, that's 5 letters. And this is going to help us remember what are mammals, and it's going to help us see how whales are similar to us. Okay, and throughout this process, my friend Kason here is actually going to be becoming a gray whale. So we're going to get to see this process in real life. Kason has always wanted to be a gray whale. Yeah. So we are going to turn him into a gray whale today. Now, first is W. What do you think W stands for? There is a mammalian trait that starts with a W that all of us have in common. Does anybody know? I see some guesses in the chat. So this one starts with a W. And I'll give you all a hint. It's hot out here for Mendocino. It's pretty warm. So W stands for warm-blooded. So we're going to write warm-blooded. Now, what does warm-blooded mean? What does warm-blooded mean? So warm-blooded means that we produce our own body heat. So unlike lizards that go out and they sit in the sun and that warms them up, we make our own heat. And a lot of mammals, we have fur, or like people, we're wearing coats that help us stay warm. But whales don't have that. Whales don't have a thick fur coat, do they? Whales don't wear coats. What do whales have instead? How do whales keep warm? Without a fur coat, without a coat, how do whales keep warm? How do whales keep warm as warm-blooded mammals in a very cold ocean? Whales use something called blubber, which is kind of like fat, and it insulates them. It's kind of like they're wearing a coat all of the time. So, first step to becoming a gray whale living in the cold ocean, we are going to wrap my friend Kason in blubber wrap, as I like to call it, to keep him nice and warm in the cold ocean. Lots of layers because it's really cold out there. Beautiful, nice and warm. So that is step one in becoming a gray whale. Now, what's next? What does H stand for? H is something that we have. All mammals have this in common. I'll give you a little hint. What does H stand for? So H, some of you might have said this, H stands for hair. So all mammals have hair at some point during their life. Hair. Has anyone ever seen a whale with hair before? Maybe. Now, it's hard to believe, but whales actually do have hair. They don't have very much of it because, as you can imagine, if you have a lot of hair, it can make swimming a little bit difficult. But whales have just a few hairs on the top of their head, right here. And they use these hairs kind of like your cat uses their whiskers to feel their surroundings. So instead of using hair to keep warm, they're using them to sense movement in the water around them. All right. So second step to becoming a gray whale is having a little bit of hair on your head. So Kason, you might want to take your hat off. And we're gonna put on some whale hair, just like that picture we saw. There's just a few hairs on top of his head. Beautiful. Next up, A. What does A stand for? A. What does A stand for? All mammals breathe air. So A is for air. How would an animal that lives underwater breathe air? If any of you have been whale watching before, you might have seen this in action. If you arrived a little bit earlier, you might have seen it. But when whales are swimming through the water, they come up to the surface and they don't come out and take a big breath, but they'll just put the top of their head out of the water and then dive back down. So humans, we have two nostrils on the front of our face. Whales have this special adaptation where they have moved their nostrils from the front of their face to the top of their head, and they call it a blowhole. So that's on the top of their head. You can see it kind of looks like two nostrils there. And because gray whales have two blowholes on top of their head, when they breathe out, it goes in two directions and makes a heart-shaped spout. So if you ever go out whale watching and you see a beautiful heart shape, it might be a gray whale. All right, next step to becoming a gray whale, you gotta have a spout. Beautiful. Next up, what does L stand for? All mammals do this. I think I saw it in the Q&A earlier. Someone guessed this one. So L stands for live birth. None of you came out of an egg. If you did, call a doctor. If you lay an egg, call a doctor. But all mammals give live birth. That means that when we're born as little babies. Gray whale babies are called calves. And this time of year, our gray whales are moving to the north, and we have mamas with their newborn babies that were just born down in Mexico, heading north so that they can get some food to eat. They might stop a few times on the way and have some snacks, but the Arctic is where the most food is. But babies, they aren't eating food yet. And that brings us to our next one. So E. What could E stand for? This one's a little bit tricky, a little bit weird. E. What could E stand for? As mammals. So E, in this case, is going to stand for eat. So all mammals, when we're young, we eat or drink milk. Eat milk. And that works for whales because their milk is very thick. Think about trying to drink milk underwater. It doesn't work very well. So gray whales, they have really, really thick milk. It's about as thick as toothpaste or cottage cheese. So they actually eat milk underwater. So all mammals have 5 things in common. So that's 5 things right off the bat that we have in common with gray whales. We are warm-blooded, we have hair, we breathe air, we give live birth, and we eat milk. Now, how do adult whales eat? We talked about how the babies eat really thick milk. How do the adult whales eat? This is another really cool adaptation to life in the water. Gray whales have this stuff in their mouths. So instead of teeth, this is where we're a little bit different from gray whales. They have baleen. So feel your fingernails, feel your hair. Baleen is made out of the same stuff. It's called keratin as your fingernails and your hair. And whales have this stuff in their mouths. And it looks a little bit like an ingrown mustache to me. And they use that to filter their food from the water. When gray whales eat, they actually put their mouth in the mud at the bottom of the seafloor. They take a big gulp of mud and then they use their tongue to push all of that mud out, filter it through their baleen, and they trap behind these little tiny animals called amphipods, and that's what they eat. And there's a lot of them in the Arctic. So our next step for Casey to become a gray whale is he has to put on the baleen mask. Beautiful! I can't even tell the difference. He looks just like a gray whale. Ready to dive into the ocean. All right. So gray whales mostly like to eat in the Arctic. Why would they eat in the Arctic? So in the Arctic, they spend their summer times up in the Arctic in Alaska in the very, very cold, nutrient-rich waters of the Arctic. So that's really important. There is cold, nutrient-rich water. There's also a lot of sunshine. So that means there's a lot of tiny plants that grow called phytoplankton. You can see they're green. That means they're like plants on land. They're photosynthesizing. They're using those the cold nutrient-rich water to absorb nutrients. And they're using the sunshine to do photosynthesis. And that makes a lot of phytoplankton. And a lot of phytoplankton means a lot of food for amphipods. So if the amphipods have a lot of food, then there's a lot more amphipods. And if there's a lot of amphipods, there's a lot more gray whales. There's a lot more food for gray whales to eat. So it's really important that gray whales make this journey so that they can go to the all-you-can-eat buffet up in the Arctic. But one would happen if the Arctic got a little bit warmer? What would happen if our climate was changing and the water was getting warmer? Remember, cold water means more nutrients. So if the water got warmer, what would happen to those nutrients? Would we have as many nutrients? Would we have less nutrients? What do you guys think? If the water got warmer, what would happen to the nutrients in the water? So this is something that's happening now. The climate is changing, it's caused by people. And as the water warms in the Arctic, somebody got it, there are less nutrients available. Now, less nutrients means less phytoplankton, and less phytoplankton means less amphipods, and less amphipods can mean less gray whales. But luckily, gray whales can adapt, and so can we. So, gray whales are adapting to climate change. There's a few ways that they can do this. One way is that they're changing their feeding strategies a little bit. So where gray whales usually like to dive to the bottom and eat on the bottom of the seafloor, some of them have started to eat higher in the water column. So they're starting to eat some small fish, maybe some different foods that aren't found in the mud, but they're found somewhere else. Some gray whales are stopping more often during their migrations to eat food in different areas. So instead of stopping at the all-you-can-eat buffet up in the Arctic, they might be stopping more along our coast for little snacks along the way. Some gray whales are even changing their migration route entirely. So it's really exciting that we can still see gray whales today. And we want to be able to continue seeing them in the future. And while they can adapt to climate change, and while we can also adapt to climate change a little bit, it's really important that we do our part. We don't want to make them have to adapt to climate change. We don't want to be the reason that gray whales don't exist in the future. So what are some things that we can do to help gray whales? And we're watching for gray whales now. So as we watch, let's brainstorm some ideas. What can we do to help gray whales? How can we fight climate change to help gray whales? That's the real question. Climate change is a big issue. Oh, and there's a gray whale. So remember to watch for that spout. It looks kind of like a little cloud coming out of the water. And as we watch whales, let's think of some things we can do to fight climate change. There's some more whales. That looks like two whales really close together. So that might actually be one of our mother gray whales with their newborn baby, their calf. Awesome, do you guys see that? Beautiful. All right, so someone says we can clean up after ourselves when we leave the beach. Absolutely. That's going to help whales a lot and all of the other sea creatures and us. Nobody wants trash at the beach. Just like we clean up our homes, we want to clean up the places we go to visit in nature. What else can we do to help gray whales? Go ahead and type them in the chat. Oh, beautiful. Our whales are really active right now. And over here we have Kason the gray whale watching gray whales through the spotting scope. After the program, he's going to dive in and become one of them. So let's think, what can we do as individuals to fight against climate change? One of those things that you and I can do just while we're alone, we can clean up the beach, right? We can pick up trash. What else can we do? Think about saving energy. We don't want to use a lot of fossil fuels. Maybe your family has an electric vehicle. That could help gray whales. We can use less plastic, right? So the less that we use, the less waste we produce. We can recycle. Someone says we can recycle. That can help. But if we reduce and reuse first, then we have less to even have to recycle, right? So the more we can reduce the things that we're using, reduce our consumption, the less we have to recycle, and the less impact we have on these beautiful animals. Awesome. Someone says we can also conserve water and turn off electricity when not in use. So every time you leave a room, if you just switch that light switch off, that is doing your part to help gray whales. And something else that we really like to do here in California state parks, we like to take 3 for the sea. So this is a challenge I have for all of you today. Next time you go outside anywhere, not even just at the beach, although you can do this at the beach. Next time you go outside, we challenge you to pick up 3 pieces of litter. As long as it's safe, pick up 3 pieces of trash, and that helps the ocean. And 3 is not very much, but if every one of us gets together and we all pick up 3 pieces of trash, that can make a really big impact. And that's something we can all easily do on our own that helps gray whales. Now, what can we do together? What can your class or your school do to help fight climate change? This is a big question. And climate change is a big problem, but it takes a solution, a big solution. And if we all come together, we can make a big difference. So what could your class do, or what could your school do that might help fight against climate change? Does your school use a lot of plastic? Is there a lot of waste in your cafeteria? Is there an art class where you could make some posters to teach other people about gray whales and climate change? Maybe you could hang posters around town. Oh, someone says at their school they use reusable water bottles. That's awesome. Oh, and that was a beautiful whale. Reusable water bottles, reusable food containers. And somebody else says we can learn about climate change so we can teach others. Perfect. And you all are doing that right now. We're learning about climate change. And this is something you can share with your friends, you can share with your families and your communities. Just talking about it makes a big difference. The more people that are aware of the problem, the more people we can get together to help us solve the problem. Awesome. And one other thing that we can do, we can make more of these special places that I was talking about earlier called marine protected areas. So like I said, our whales, they travel through these special places, these special marine protected areas. And what we can do is we can make more of them, or we can take care of the ones that we already have. So these marine protected areas can protect things like kelp forests that can absorb carbon from the atmosphere and help fight climate change. We can protect whales on their journey by making sure that there's marine protected areas they can swim through where they're not going to get caught in fishing line or hit by boats, right? So these places can really help us to help gray whales. Here in California, we have marine protected areas all up and down the coast that gray whales swim through on their way north with their babies. Awesome. So you have a lot more in common with gray whales than you might think. First of all, we're all mammals. And the 5 things that all mammals have in common, we are warm-blooded, we have hair, we breathe air, we give live birth, and we nurse our young with milk. Like we talked about, gray whales eat a little bit differently than us, but they do have to eat, and they do have to reproduce, just like we do. And we are both affected by climate change. So we talked a lot about how gray whales are affected by climate change. It affects their food sources in the Arctic, and they're having to adapt to that. But humans are having to adapt too. So we're starting to see bigger storms. It's starting to be really, really hot sometimes in the summer where maybe it wasn't so hot before. So, like gray whales, we also are affected by climate change. And it's important that we fight climate change, not just for ourselves, not just for the gray whales, but for everyone that lives on this planet together. Thank you all for joining me. And we have a few minutes left. We're going to keep watching some gray whales. And I'm going to look through some of the questions that you all asked during the program because you all have some awesome questions. So someone asks, what is the typical size of an adult gray whale? So adult gray whales can be between 42 to 29 feet long. So that's about like a school bus size. What do whales eat? Different kinds of whales eat different things, but like we talked about, our gray whales, they're eating mostly amphipods, which are kind of like shrimp. How old is the oldest gray whale? So gray whales can live up to 70 years. Where do gray whales sleep? They can actually sleep while swimming. So they can shut off half of their brains and keep the other half awake, kind of like our birds that migrate through the sky. So gray whales, how long are they pregnant? They're pregnant for about 12 months, a whole year. How long can they hold their breath? So gray whales can hold their breath about 15 to 20 minutes. How many times do they give birth in their lifetime? So they'll have one baby every 2 to 3 years. And that is only if they get enough food to eat, right? So it's really important that our gray whales get enough food up in the Arctic so that they can have enough energy to make a baby and have a baby. Great questions. And how much does a calf weigh? They can weigh up to 2,000 pounds. That is a lot. That is a big baby. And do they have any natural predators? So one of their predators is the orca, and that's one of the main reasons they have their babies down in Baja in Mexico, because they are safe from orcas there. Awesome questions. All right, and we've gotten to see quite a few whales today. And if you ever make your way out to the coast of Mendocino, come and see us here at Mendocino Headlands State Park. We would love to meet you all in person. Beautiful. I hope you all are able to see those whales on your screen. And all you need to go whale watching is just your eyes. You don't need any special equipment. You don't need a spotting scope. You don't need binoculars, although they can make it really fun. If you ever want to come out here and go whale watching, all you have to do is come out to the coast. Springtime is a great time to watch whales here in California because that's when the gray whales are migrating. All right, and thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your day today.